Eric, first of all, I want to say thank you for your prayer very much. Good morning, everyone. Let's take a brief look. What I'm going to do this morning is take a brief look on 2024, and then Brian will follow me as we look forward to 2025 and our plans for East Shelby. And then, as mentioned, Ryan will come forward and have a few comments about our theme for 25 and extended invitation to those who might be outside of Christ. So let's get started. Looking back on 2024, we hired an additional preacher. Lee Moore was hired as our second preacher at East Shelby last year. And the lessons and the work that Lee does and has done really added to the work here at East Shelby very, very much. And we are so thankful that he and Ryan work side by side with one another in a great way. So we're appreciative, Leah, of you and your wife Paige and his mother Solange, and the ones who have come our way from Marion, Arkansas. Also Gene Johnson and Susan and Jackson Magruder. They're all integral parts of our congregation now at East Shelby. I think we have a little problem moving forward on that. Here we go. So there's the supported preachers. Also, one note of interest was that Preston and Abby Nichols left us in June of last year after completing an 18-month internship under Ryan. And I know we all miss them. They were an integral part of our congregation. They are now in Lufkin, Texas, with the Timberland Church of Christ there. So let's continue to remember them in our prayers as well. The next thing we'll talk about is the attendance at East Shelby, and we always, as elders, focus our thoughts on attendance. Not necessarily the numbers, but on our desire to assemble with the saints and attend worship at every time the doors are open. You know, attendance is a key indicator or a key signal with one's growth, we believe, in their faith and their building relationships with God and building relationships with one another. As Andy stated a few weeks ago, all of you that were here, if members are choosing not to assemble when there are assemblies, specifically the 9 a.m. service on Sunday and Wednesday nights, then the desire is not what it should be. When the doors are here and you're not elected not to be here, then that's a problem. We're not talking about the ones who are sick and afflicted and cannot be here. Of course, we know that. In 2024, at our 9 a.m. worship, the average attendance was 141. Keep these numbers kind of in your mind. We talk about them a lot in our elders meetings. The Bible class attendance at 10 o'clock was an average of 169 last year. So that's 28 more that came at 10 than they were here at 9. And then at our 11 o'clock hour, the average attendance was 203. 62 more than at 9 o'clock. 62 more. And on Wednesday nights, the attendance is about the same as it is on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock. So like Andy said, folks, we need to do a better job of that. And we're asking you to try to do your very best to get here for all the services, the 3-hour services at 9 o'clock. As we think about our theme of 2025, Revive Us Again, we want and we need you here at 9 o'clock. And we can do better. I'm telling you right now that next Sunday at 9 o'clock, Jesus will be here. Jesus will be here. And he's here with us every Sunday at 9 o'clock. And let's all plan to be here as well. Moving on, the total baptisms and restorations for 2024. We had 12 baptisms last year, and we had 5 souls that were restored, and what a blessing that is and was. Our total attendance moving forward for preachers that we support from various congregations. I think we're on the next slide now. There we go. The total attendance for preachers that we support from other congregations. We have heard from all the preachers that we support in the United States as well as abroad. And we support 16 preachers in the United States, and we support 8 overseas, totaling 24. In fact, we receive, I don't know if you know it or not, we receive a monthly report from every one of these preachers, letting us know what's going on in that congregation and what's happening, and we've asked for that, and they're all doing a really good job of that. So the rough total for the attendance of all these other congregations are 959 people. Most of them are Christians that we support. And in their congregations last year, there have been 120 baptisms in 2024, and 7 have been restored. And most of those baptisms that we have seen were in the Philippines. So think about that. You are playing a big part in your contributions upon the first day of the week, that we're submitting money to these preachers so that they could carry on the work of these congregations. And you're to be commended for that. And East Shelby is blessed to be able to support the gospel being preached in the United States and abroad in these foreign countries while adding souls to Christ around the world. And what a great joy that is. Looking back upon the activities to spread and to strengthen our congregation in last year, in 2024, we had a gospel meeting with Mark McQuarrie in the spring, and we had one with Jordan Schaus in the fall. And both of these men did a great job while they were with us. They preached great lessons on Sunday and each night of the meeting. You know, if we applied this year's theme, which is Revive Us Again, that you've heard this morning, and you'll hear it more in a minute, to our gospel meetings and attendance, the question to each of us would be this. Think about this. Do these lessons revive you when you come and hear a gospel meeting? Do they revive you? Do you think your presence here revives others? And does the presence of other Christians around you revive you? And those are questions that have definite answers. We know what those answers are. It's yes. So these are just some thoughts about the commitment that we need and you can make in your attitude as we go into 2025, not only at the 9 o'clock a.m. hour and on Wednesday nights, but also during our gospel meetings. On gospel meetings, we are really falling short of our members. We don't have really good attendance at all. And so we're asking you to attend these meetings as well. We also had a invite a friend Sunday, and that was a great day. We saw about 50 guests that day last year. And since that date, we have had 2 baptisms as a result of that particular day. So we invited friends and neighbors. Jonathan Kelly, who is with us this morning and was baptized into Christ a few weeks ago and just met with the elders last Wednesday night and placed membership, told us last Wednesday night, the elders, that as a result of coming with his wife that day, Kelsey, it opened his eyes to studying the gospel due to the friendliness of everyone here at East Shelby that he met. He said he was having a hard time realizing how friendly everyone was, and he became a Christian because he studied the gospel with Ryan and others, and he's now an integral part of this congregation, and we're looking forward to his growth. VBS. We had another good VBS in 2024 with an average daily attendance of 110. Thanks to John Sly and many others that taught and participated in VBS last year. And when our 2024 curriculum was our walk as Christians, and I'm gonna, you know what it's gonna be next year? Okay, good. I'm not going to say it then because I'll let Brian talk about that. Many talented ladies participated last year, and we'll do it again this year in 2025. And like I said, Brian will touch upon the theme for 2025 in just a few seconds. We had a Germantown Festival booth last September also, and this was a new outreach. that will be continued also in 2025. There have been no fruits yet for his baptisms that we've seen, yet we're hopeful for great success going forward. Hats off to Lee Moore, who headed this up, and a few others that participated in this. By the way, I've been asked to ask the congregation, we really need more volunteers this year. And let Lee know that you're willing to work during this fair this year at Germantown. And it could be an hour or two here, but I think they're on Saturdays and Sunday afternoons after church. But let him know, because we were really short-handed last year to this festival and try to bring others to Christ. And I know Ryan was a part of that as well, big part. And finally, the last thing I've got is the Women's Day. Over 90 attended that day in September of last year. And this day, in which many of our ladies participated along with outside guests from other congregations, was very good and very worthwhile. And we're asking our ladies to attend this year as well. And based on the input that we received and the plans that we have heard about it, of course, we'll have one again in 2025. But that's what I've got for 2024. I'm excited to hear what Brian's going to talk about for 2025. Brian?
Well, Dennis and I haven't coordinated real well, because at this point we're not going to be having a Women's Day, but there may be some changes on that. But we've been told that they're not doing that. But we got some other plans to maybe taking place of that. Revive Us Again. Why did we choose this theme? Oh, before I get there, I want to bring something to your attention. I got a phone call yesterday from Chris Reeves, Jacob and Carlin's father. He preaches there in Clarksville. He was in the Philippines, and we heard he was going, so we said, would you mind checking on the couple of guys, or at least one of them, that we support there, because we don't get over there a lot. I mean, we've known them for quite a while, and we were put in contact with them through other men, Ron Holbrook, that have been over there, but we haven't had anyone really get to know them. And Chris was able to do that. He called yesterday and said they're very good men doing a very good work. And in fact, he told me that these two, it's Evan Lee and his father, and we're supporting Evan Lee only though, but they preach at 3 churches every Sunday. Now they're some miles apart, so there's some, time for them to have to get from one church to the other, but he said they're doing a very good job, and it was very good to hear, and wanted to report that I just got that yesterday from Chris. Okay, so back to our theme. Why did we choose this theme? And Dennis have already hit on it. We've noticed a drop, and it's been occurring over the last few years, been dramatically occurring at the 9 o'clock service and the Wednesday Bible studies. And of course, at special events, as Dennis mentioned, the gospel meetings, and then of course the singings that we have. In the evangelism events, even there, the meetup studies that Ryan has, we've only had maybe 10 or 12 show up for those. Now, we don't want to overwhelm people, hopefully getting people from the community to come in. And we've had a few come in. And of course, the Germantown Festival, I want to be fair with that though. We really didn't give us enough time to get planned, to remind you to be able to help out with that. But we're doing that now this year. Lee's shaking his head. So, and Lee and his wife Paige and Ryan and those that could do that were there a lot. They did a lot of work on that, and we really appreciate that. But we need to help them with some of that workload, being there the whole time. And it's only an hour or two, but it's wonderful. You get to meet a lot of people, and we made over 200 to 300 contacts. So we handed out a lot of seeds, if you will. We were not in a real good location. I mean, he's going to try to get a better location, and that will probably even have more foot traffic in it. So this is why that we're seeing we need to be revived, and these are just the outward signs. And I think there's some inward signs, and I know I've experienced these myself, where I think we're just going through the motions at times. And you know that I think, more I think about this, we thought about it, it's a natural reaction, possibly from several of the things we've suffered, if you will, through the issues that we faced in the last few years, specifically and especially with the things that related to COVID, that really threw us all for a loop. And I think it's thrown us, it continues to do that to a certain extent. And again, being stagnant, becoming stale can affect almost any of us. Turn your Bibles to 1 Corinthians 10. That scripture was read earlier. I want to read it again because Paul gives a warning here. And this is part of being revived, recognizing this can happen to each one of us. He says, 1 Corinthians 10, verses 11 and 12. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings to us, on whom the culmination of the ages have come. So if you think you're standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. We hear people say, well, you can't fall from grace. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Paul says you can fall from grace. You can fall. And it's incumbent upon us to watch ourselves, to know ourselves, and to not become stagnant, and to work against that, because that's what happens is we become confident, and the next thing you know, we're falling. So we felt the need for everyone to be spiritually revived, elders and preachers included. So here's some of the things we have planned for this year. 2 gospel meetings, as we've normally been having. Bubba Garner, Pasadena, Texas. I was just happened to be there last Sunday, and I saw him, and he's really looking forward to being with us. I think he's been here before, but he's looking forward to being with us again. Bill Robinson has not been here before. He is out of Brooklyn, New York now. And is the Jamesons here today? Don't see them. Okay, they're not here. But if I recall correctly, Bill performed John and Star's wedding ceremony, and they worshiped with him when he preached for quite a while there in Lexington, Kentucky. And so I know they're very looking forward to Bill being here, but he is now working in a very difficult situation there in Brooklyn, New York, but he's also bearing a lot of fruit. So these are the 2 men we have in our meetings this year. Now, we have tried our best to schedule these meetings around spring and fall breaks. We've landed right on top of them a few times. And also, upon Ryan's urging and advice, we've moved the fall meeting, if you'll notice. We've taken it out of October, moved it to early November, because that gets us hopefully at a period where there's not a lot of school activities going on, and we understand some of those obligations that you may have there. So we're trying to make this as accommodating as possible so that we all can be able to be at these meetings. And as Dennis said, I've quit calling them gospel meetings. I mean, that's what we've always called them, because let's be honest, we don't get people to come like we used to, but years and years ago at gospel meetings, which were sometimes 1 week, even 2 weeks. But what these are now, they're revivals. Now, we're always cautious about calling it revival because we're afraid that we may be looked upon as denominational, but that's a good word. It's really what they are now. They're spiritual revivals, and these are an opportunity to really be encouraged and revived with these men that bring these wonderful lessons. We do have another Bring a Friend Sunday scheduled for March 23rd, so let's be thinking about that. Re-invite the friends you did last time, and maybe even more. And we're looking forward to hopefully having as much success as that last one was. And then here's something that we're adding, and Ryan kind of brought this to our attention, and we've been thinking about it. We don't think that we're using our Sunday evenings as well as we could. They're free for the most part because we don't have Sunday evening service anymore, recognizing we do have 3 hours on Sunday. But one purpose for doing that years ago was so we'd have these evenings to be able to fellowship more, to be able to have studies and so on. And so I think that's part of the stagnation we've gotten into, where we've kind of gotten away from even thinking about that. So what we're going to do is this year we're going to have just six studies. Ryan and Lee will be leading the men and the teens, and They will be developing the study material for all the classes at this point. They're scheduled for February, March, May, except for the teens. We won't have one then for the teens because it bumps right into Memorial Day. August, September, and October. The men will meet on the second Sunday at 5 o'clock at various homes. The women will meet on the third, and the teens will meet on the fourth Sunday. The locations, again, will be individual homes. Ryan has said that he'll get with the women, and he may, if it's agreeable, may teach some of those. But the women are welcome to teach those themselves too. So we're looking at this as to give us an opportunity to be able to get together more and to be able to revive one another, if you will, as we have these opportunities. We have and I think they're in the back now. Let's see. Cindy, do we have the calendar of events in the back? Okay, we do. All right, so this should be in the racks. We have all these listed in the calendar events, all these things we talked about, and there's a couple more even. But these men's and women's studies, the reason we had them scheduled on different evenings was so that the men or the women could watch the children, for those who have children, on the second Sunday, and then the men could watch the children on the third Sunday when the women are at their studies. Trying to work out that as much as possible, to be accommodating and help us to be able to do the best we can to be at these studies. So we want to make a really concerted effort to be at these studies, and we're going to do our best to not let them just drop off like they've done in the past. We then do have our VBS schedule, and it is on David. That is going to be the theme. The exact title hasn't been decided yet. We want to thank John for doing this again, for coordinating this. He's wonderful job. But we also want to thank Whitney Perry for doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work and developing and coordinating the curriculum for this material. Last year and this year, we're not using canned material. We're using material we developed on our own. It's been very good. What a resource that we have with brethren like this. And we're really blessed, folks. We sometimes do not recognize that. And we need to do that more. We do have 4 fifth Sunday singings at 5 p.m. Too many fives there. And so we're going to have them scheduled basically once a quarter. And we've had people ask us about these singings. Folks, everywhere I've been, when we've had a singing, it's probably the least attended service that we have. It's unfortunate. Everywhere I've been, it's not just East Shelby. And it puzzles me, because one thing we know we're going to be doing in heaven is singing. Look at Revelations. And so if you're that reluctant to sing, I think you need to reevaluate, because it's going to be awkward in heaven if that's a problem. That's maybe the easiest way to say it. But it just puzzles me why the one thing that we all can participate in, we seem to maybe not take advantage of it as we should. And I want to encourage us all to do that. With the loss of Brent Mohair as an elder, due to his change in his work schedule, and we really hated that, but understood it, we are going to be looking at considering appointing additional elders and deacons. Several of the deacons have told us, by the way, our deacons do a wonderful job. The elders, we rarely have to deal with any problems that the deacons have caused because they haven't got their work done. It hardly ever happens, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And we do appreciate all their work, but they've asked for some help. They've asked that if they can get some relief, and we have some men we think that we could, that are at that point that we could consider for additional deacons, and of course appoint additional elders, because we're down to 4 at this point. And last thing I want us to do is remember the scripture that's a real easy scripture in Romans 12 verse 13. It's one of the shorter ones. Practice hospitality. And so Paul is telling them, giving them many instructions, but he throws there. We want to encourage that more. We've noticed a drop off of this amongst ourselves, and we know probably amongst you all, and probably due to COVID, but for whatever reason, part of this stagnation. So we're asking everyone, elders included, to consider practicing hospitality. We had this theme, we had this as one of our goals in Iowa when I was an elder there before I came here. And the church about 100 people, and we set it a goal for each family to try to have one family or somebody over once a month, just 12 times, once a month. Me and Yvonne were only able to get through the 8. We only did 8. We only had one person in that group that was able to do that. And it was a single man. And he had somebody every month. And so I came to Don and I said, Don, we really appreciate you doing that. You're the only one that did it. Ryan's laughing because he knows Don. And Don said, I said, but we really weren't thinking you'd be doing that. He goes, well, you told us to do it. And I said, and I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. So this is our encouragement. Do the best you can to maybe start doing more of that. I know it takes effort, and we do want to encourage that. That is our plans for this year, and we're wanting to once again revive our spiritual side so that we can all be better service to God and more pleasing to Him. Okay, Ryan?
Well, in a moment, I'm going to get to our invitation song, but I'm going to go ahead and say a few comments here before we do get to that. Got a couple of what I'll call odds and ends from Ryan. Odds and ends from Ryan. First of all, let's open up to 2 Peter chapter 1, and I'll talk about this for just a moment. Peter makes a statement to his readers in 2 Peter chapter 1 about the importance of reminders, and that's kind of what revival is, isn't it? A revival is a reminder of what you used to be. It's a reminder of an expectation that was set, that when we're created as new creatures in Jesus Christ, that itself is a reminder of the innocence that we had when we were first born. It's a reminder of a standard that Jesus set long, long ago to his followers, that you're going to live a certain way and be a certain kind of people, and even just becoming a Christian in the first place is a sort of a reminder or revival. But maybe you've been a Christian for a while. Maybe you've been a Christian for a long time. Relative to other people, I suppose I've been a Christian for a long time, but I know there's people in this room who've been a Christian probably 2 or 3 times longer than I have. And we need to be revitalized as well. We need to remember what it was that drew us in the first place. We need to remember the enthusiasm that we had when we were first baptized. I don't think anybody ever comes out of that water going, oh, well, that was ho-hum. You come out of the water excited about this new life that you have. And when it's time for revival, it's time to get back to that enthusiasm. You may have to be reminded a lot of times in life. And so Peter makes the following statement in 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 12. Therefore, I shall always be ready to remind you of these things, even though you already know them and have been established in the truth which is present in you. Maybe that's a good statement for East Shelby. We've been a congregation of Christians for a long time now. You go back to before we were in this location, and then you go back to before we were in the location before this location. And I don't know, Neil, there might have been another location before that even. And so it's not like this is a brand new thing that we're doing, full of brand new people who've never been around each other and have never seen anything work. We've been doing this a while, but Peter says, we always need to be in a place of reminder. We need to remind ourselves of the work that we need to do and the enthusiasm with which we need to do it. He says in verse 13, and I consider it right as long as I am in this earthly dwelling to stir you up by way of reminder. I love that statement, to stir you up. Again, that's what revival isn't it? To take something that's been dormant and to shake it awake. And that's what we're trying to do, is to shake awake a congregation that has done so much good work over the years and has such incredible potential, but that cannot rely on its history to move forward into the future. I mean, history means nothing, my friends, as far as what we need to be doing today and tomorrow and for the next phase of our lives, both individually and as a congregation. And so you can't point to what you did 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or remember back in the day when it was like this at East Shelby. You don't get to rely on that. That doesn't matter. It's all in the past. And the only thing we can do is to be reminded of what we ought to be doing in the future. And he says in verse 14, knowing that the laying aside of my earthly dwelling is imminent, as also our Lord Jesus Christ has made clear to me. And so I'll be diligent, that at any time after my departure, you may be able to call these things to mind. And so here are some literal ways that we're going to remind ourselves this year of the theme of reminder. Some things that you can handle, some tangible ways that we're going to do this. First of all, every Sunday we're going to end our service, time permitting. I understand that some Sundays there may be something that comes up, a baptism, that sort of thing. So time permitting, and assuming that there isn't something that interferes with it, we're asking all the song leaders who lead songs at the 11 o'clock hour of our worship to end the service, that is right before the closing prayer, with one verse of Revive Us Again. On the first Sunday, please lead the first verse of that song. On the second Sunday, lead the second verse. On the third Sunday, lead the third verse. And whenever we get to a fifth Sunday, as often as they happen, go ahead and lead the whole song. Because, by the way, our songbook only has 4 verses of Revive Us Again. And so please kind of be aware that I'll send an email out, and maybe we'll put a little reminder up there in the booth with Kurt, just so we're aware that every Sunday we're going to end our 11 o'clock hour with one verse of Revive Us Again. Again, before the closing prayer. A second thing that we're going to do is we've got these invitation cards that Lee mentioned at 9 o'clock, and they're about the size of a postcard. They're not designed to be a postcard per se, but you could very easily put it into a thank you card envelope or something like that and mail it if you want to. They're really meant to be handout cards. And on the front, you've got a graphic of what our theme is, and on the back, it just has an invitation that says, "You're always welcome." The gist of our theme is, our focus is spiritual renewal, and we believe that this is an important thing, to be renewed in our knowledge, our zeal, and our devotion. This is not a call for perfect people to be more perfect, but it's a call to humble ourselves and find meaning and purpose in self-sacrifice and love. And if you would like to join us in this pursuit of spiritual renewal and revival, then please be a part of East Shelby. And it's got our service times, our website, our YouTube channel, and just essentially an invitation with a QR code that leads to our website. So that's something that you can just hand out to friends throughout the year. As you have an opportunity and an opening, you may say, hey, I've been thinking. I can tell that you're someone that's looking. I can tell that you're someone spiritually who's been dormant. Well, we just so happen to be talking about that this year. Will you join us sometime? A third thing that we're going to do, and they're not made yet, but I did have some surprising response. I didn't know how much people liked the magnets that we made for the theme every year, and so I opted not to do it this year, and then I got some very strong response from people. Apparently, those who love the magnets really love the magnets. So I am going to make the magnets, and it's something you can just put on your refrigerator or something like that as a daily reminder of what our theme is. So how can I practice this revival on a regular basis? What can I do from day to day to be like what Peter says in 2 Peter, to remind myself of the great things that God has done for me and how I can give back to God? Well, I think some things that we can do in just a very basic, accessible stuff is follow a daily Bible reading plan. There's a bunch of us that downloaded an app, and we've been going through a daily Bible reading. And it's been kind of fun. I'll be honest, I have never followed a strict daily Bible reading plan, and it's not like, whoa, because I read enough as it is. But it's kind of, I read enough as it is. No. See, Silas gets it. But it has been kind of neat that in addition to the studying that I do for my work, it's also nice to just start every day with a cup of coffee and be like, this is how my day is starting. I'm going to read 3 or 4 or 5 chapters. I'm going to follow this plan, and it's going to be very disciplined. It's just going to be added to my arsenal of spiritual disciplines that help me a lot. And there's something very important about posting visual reminders as well. If you use sticky notes or something like that, remind yourself to take a moment to meditate and to pray and to learn. In fact, if you go up into my office, I have on one of my bookshelves framed so that I can look at it. I can look at it straight from my desk. When I'm at my desk every day, it's a framed thing that says, learn something today, pray about something today, and meditate about something today. And I feel like if every single day of your life you can learn something new, and you can pray about something, and you can meditate about something, I feel like that has been a successful use of your day. So remind yourself of that. Get some kind of visual reminder to help you with that. Set a realistic goal to take your engagement with your brethren up a level. Like Brian alluded to, that's practicing hospitality, but it doesn't have to necessarily be making a pot roast for somebody. It can be as simple as, are you Facebook friends with anybody at church? Like, you're on Facebook every day, you're scrolling through Facebook. How many of your church folk are actually a regular part of your Facebook engagement? And it's things like that. But just kind of, again, set a realistic goal for yourself of engaging more with other people. Stay 5 minutes after worship. Stay 5 minutes. And you never know who you'll meet if you just give it 5 minutes. And 5 minutes may turn into 20 minutes of the most amazing conversation you've had with someone who you didn't even know you had that much in common with. You just never really know. And I also think a last part of that would be purposefully restricting worldly pursuits. Like, make it a goal for yourself to spend less time on your phone, unless, of course, you're opening your phone up for your daily Bible reading app. Make it a goal to spend less time looking at social media, less time scrolling through YouTube, less time watching TV, and be more intentional about the quality quiet time that you give back to God. Give more to others, and that would include practicing more charity. Take a little bit more of your earthly wealth and give it to somebody else. I've always found, this is just me, but I've always found that the best way of getting out of a selfish mindset, of where I'm worried about myself and woe is me and all my problems are so bad, is get out and help somebody else who is in need. And it really does affect your mindset. So we'll go back again to what Peter said. We need to remind ourselves of what we should be doing as Christians. And when we're doing that as individual Christians, that will impact what we're doing as a congregation of Christians trying to represent Christ in this community. Have we always been doing the best job of that? I'm not so sure. But can we? Absolutely. Otherwise, we would not have set a goal like this and a theme to follow throughout this year. So at this time, if you'd like to open up your song books to number 133, I'm going to go ahead and lead us in Revive Us Again. Give me just a second here to get a pitch.